Alright guys, today I'm going to be reviewing a frog. Alright, so I'm going to be reviewing a frog, or in this case a toad, and that is a Stanley Ribbit top toad. And these things, I've been throwing them for, 2 or 3 years now, and I really hated to admit it, but I've caught the most topwater fish on this frog here. I've always wanted, always like throwing the Zoom horny toad, it was my favorite toad for a while. I like throwing hollow bodies, and so I didn't want to get away from that. Even this past, if you guys watched this past video, the last one I did, uploaded on Wednesday, we crushed them on this frog. But I was stubborn and I was not throwing this frog. For one, we didn't have a whole lot of them, but we ended up with 2 of them left. I was throwing one and Isaac was throwing one in there at the end, but I didn't want to switch over. I was throwing a Zoom horny toad, I was throwing a hollow body frog, but after seeing Isaac catch so many fish on it, I moved over to it. And now I'm gonna admit, this is probably my most producing topwater lure right here. And what it is, it's kind of a cross between a hollow body and a soft plastic. So it's a soft plastic, just like any soft plastic craw or soft plastic frog out there. It's soft plastic, but it's hollow. It's got the body is actually hollow. It's got a little hole right here for the air, but it's almost like a hollow body frog. And the body is hollow, and so it actually will float. And this has the big huge feet on the end of it, so it's gonna kick. And so you can throw this out there, and you can buzz it, and you can pause it. You can do all kinds of different retrieves. Throw it out there, reel a little bit, get those legs, kick, and pause, and it will float. Kick, pause. You can do all kinds. You can do little pops. My grandpa, while you were in that last video, he was, I don't think it was in the video, but he was kind of just popping it almost like a popper, just kind of pulling it and to do a pop, just kick, pause, kick, pause. I've seen people walk these baits as well, actually get them to kind of walk back and forth. I haven't actually tried that, but these baits, they work extremely well. They go over the pads extremely well. I was throwing a Zoom horny toad, like I said, and a hollow body frog, and I think this comes through the pads better than those baits. Now, I don't fish much grass, like grass mats. My lake is, full of pads, and so that's what I'm mainly fishing. And but this bait, it crawls right over it. Throw it out there and just reel it, and it will crawl right over those lily pads, no matter how thick they are, how tall they are. Because the problem on my lake is the lily pads, they get tall. They're not flat on the water. Some of them are, but a lot of them are up, sticking way out off the water, and the baits won't come through them. Well, this just kind of crawls right through them. It does a really good job. How you rig this sucker is they come. You can either buy them. When you buy them, you can either buy a 2-pack, and it will come with one rigged and one not rigged, or you can buy a 3-pack and none of them come rigged, and then you can buy the hook separate. You can really choose what you want to do there. But usually what I'd recommend is getting a pre-rigged pack and a regular pack, because these, you're going to love them. If you start throwing these around, they're going to catch fish. So they come with this big Stanley double take frog hook. I think that's 6/0, 2 big 6/0 hooks. And it's a screw lock. You just screw it right in the nose, and you just take the bait, kind of bend it, and put it right over the back. It's not actually stabbing in the bait at all. So the bait, very durable because of that. You're not actually stabbing the hooks in them. Very durable. Now you can take these top hooks and just kind of expose it, just kind of stick them in there, and that will make it even more weedless. But 90% of the time, I'm just letting them sit. They just kind of sit right on top of the back of that frog, and it's really weedless. You will occasionally get some pads, and occasionally it will flip over and, hit a pad and flip over and you might hook it. But it does a really good job. And going to that flipping over, that's a big issue with soft body frogs. Is people have a problem with them flipping over. And if that frog's upside down when that fish eats it, those hooks are going to get them in the bottom. And that's not what you want. You want these hooks to drive straight up through the top of the mouth. And these frogs, they do a really good job at staying upright, and they flip over fast. So if you cast, they may land upside down, but as soon as they hit, they're going to flip over. This hook, it doesn't really have a weight on there, but it's kind of heavy. It's kind of heavy wire, and so that weight on that, just the wire, lets that flip over, and it flips over pretty quick. It's not, you don't have to let it sit there for too long. Basically, as soon as it hits the water, it will flip. And then if you're reeling it and for some reason it hits something or flips over, just pause it and it will flip right back over. But it was actually doing a way better job than the Zoom Horny Toad. The Zoom Horny Toad, the problem with it, and I know this isn't a toad, this is a swim bait, but the hook would be hanging down. I use a wide gap hook, and it's hanging down like this. And what would happen is you'd run into a lily pad, and it would flip over. That hook would hit it, and it'd flip over on top of the lily pad. And then it'd stay flipped over, and you'd have to stop reeling and kind of wait for it, and it would sink down and take forever to flip back. But with this bait, because that hook is almost flush on the bottom, it doesn't do that. When it hits the pads, it just climbs right up over them. It doesn't flip. Sometimes if you hit it the right way, it will, but 90% of the time, it stays upright. It's a great frog to fish. The hookup ratio, because those big hooks, is phenomenal. I mean, of course, in frog fishing, a big part of it is how the fish are getting it. The fish themselves. Are they missing it? Are they hitting the legs? And then the other big part is how are you, what are you doing when they blow up on it? But if they want this, like they were in that last video, they were just crushing these things. Then, I mean, you wait and just give them a second. They're going to come up and just boom. The way they're eating them, you just let them just hesitate, let them take it for a second, maybe reel down and kind of feel them, make sure they're there, and swing. And they were choking it. I'll show a little clip right here just of Isaac's big one that he caught, and it had this sucker choked. Alright, so you saw there, I mean, that was this frog, and you can barely even see it. I zoomed in there, but you can barely see it. It had this frog choked down its throat, and he didn't even wait that long. They say with top water, oh, wait 5 seconds, wait 3 seconds. But, if those big ones, if they want it, I mean, you don't really have to wait that long. I would always advise you to, but if those fish really, if they want it, and they, those big ones that just come up and suck it down, you really don't have to wait all that long. Just hesitate for a second. If you watch me, that's really what I do. I just see the blow up, kind of hesitate for a second, and maybe make sure. Big thing is make sure your line is tight. You don't really want to swing on slack line. If you want to tighten it down. That way, when you swing, you get the full hook set. But it's an awesome frog. Like I said, hookup ratio. As long as the fish are hitting it, as long as the fish are actually eating it, and you are just hesitating for a minute or a couple seconds, you're gonna get them. And now, if the fish are coming up and hitting the legs and just kind of popping it, of course, you're not gonna get a very good hookup ratio, because that's just the fish not eating it. But when they're eating it, when they're coming up and sucking it down, you've got it. It's like 80% hookup ratio. I think Isaac maybe missed 2 fish that actually had it. I mean, he missed some other ones that just kind of came up and slapped the tails. But the fish that actually came up and ate it, I mean, he missed 2 out of, how many did he catch? He probably caught, over the weekend, he probably caught a dozen fish almost. 10, he outfished us all. In that last video, there's probably 8 fish catches, but we caught a lot more than that. And so Isaac caught a lot of fish, and out of all the fish, he only missed like 2. So it's a really good hookup ratio. So this frog, it's awesome. Highly would recommend it. I'm going to go pick up more because I lost a few. And these things, they're pretty durable. I mean, this one here this is the one that I caught all my fish on. I caught 3 or 4 on this frog here, and still fishable. Isaac probably caught about 6, 5 or 6, and then what happened to his, and this is the only problem really, is these screw locks will pull out. The fish will, for whatever, they have the frog, or when you set the hook or whatever, and it will pull out of that fish. Out of that screw lock, sorry. The frog will rip out of there. But because these frogs float, unless a fish swallowed it, you can see it floating. You can kind of cruise over there with the trolling motor, and you actually will see this frog floating. And you can go over there, grab it off the top of the water, and screw it right back in. Now, once it happens once, it's going to start happening more. But a way to fix that is if you take a lighter, just a little lighter. You can use any kind of lighter really, and just heat up that nose. Just heat the nose up, and it will actually, that soft plastic will actually melt back together, and it's almost like brand new. And then you can screw it right back in there, and it's like brand new. So that's a really good, really good money saver tip right there. Is to light them up. Use a little lighter and heat it up, and it will melt that plastic back. And these things are durable. I've never actually had any rip off the legs. On horny toads I have, but on these I've never actually had, set the hook and came back with the legs gone, because all the fish I catch on them engulf it. And I mean, it's a loud bait. It sounds like a buzz bait, and the fish, they really, if they want it, they have no problem finding it. It sounds like a buzz bait out there. The gear I fish it on, we were fishing 50-pound braid, any brand that you'd like. This is Power Pro, but any of your favorite brands, Suffix or whatever. Then for rods, especially if you're going to be fishing in heavy cover, you want thick, heavy rods. This is a 7'3" extra heavy. It's actually a Lunkers TV Special Edition, and this is a broomstick. It's got a little bit of tip, but for the most part, it's a broomstick. And when I put the hammer down on that fish and I need to get him through the pads, he's coming in. And that's the same with Isaac. Isaac was using the Dobyns 735. Not quite as, heavy as this, but it did the job. He caught, you guys saw, he caught that 5-pounder. That was a 5 1/4. And, it came in through the pads just fine. So, anyway, that's kind of my little review on these Stanley Top Toads. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video.